They both blamed me somehow, said I brought shame to the family even though I hadn't done anything. My sister was 12. Kids at school called her sister of a whore. She tried to kill herself when she was 14. Mom's hand flew to her mouth. She survived, obviously. Lives with Mom now in Nevada. We don't really talk. Dad drank himself to death 3 years ago. Liver failure. I dropped out of school because I couldn't focus on anything except trying to figure out what I'd done wrong. Spent years in therapy trying to understand why my life had exploded. Everyone in our neighborhood knew our business. Mom couldn't keep a job because everywhere she went, someone had heard about the affair. We had to move 4 times in 2 years. Jasper, I'm so sorry, Mom whispered. I don't want your apology. His voice cracked slightly. I want you to understand something. When I found out it wasn't even me who stole from you, that you destroyed my family over a mistake, I wanted to die. I wanted to kill myself because at least then it would all make sense. All that suffering would have a reason, even if the reason was just that I couldn't take it anymore. I felt sick, actually nauseous. I sat down hard in the armchair across from him. But I didn't, Jasper continued. I got help, started putting my life back together piece by piece. Got my GED, started community college. I'm studying accounting. Ironic, right? I'm good with details, with making sure everything adds up correctly. I don't make mistakes. The emphasis on the last word landed like a punch. I spent a year planning what I'd do when I finally confronted you, he said. Thought about exposing your secrets, finding dirt on your family, doing to you what you did to me. I have your son's social media, Mrs. Brennan, his employment history, his girlfriend's information, everything. It wasn't even that hard. I felt my stomach drop. Mom had gone completely pale. But then I realized something, Jasper said, and for the first time his voice softened slightly. Doing that wouldn't fix anything. It wouldn't give me back my family, wouldn't undo the damage. It would just create more pain, and I've had enough pain for one lifetime. Then, why are you here? Mom asked, her voice barely above a whisper. To tell you that your apology letters meant nothing. Your money meant nothing. You can't buy your way out of destroying someone's life. I wanted you to sit here, in your nice house, with your nice son and your nice normal life, and think about how close you came to losing all of it. Because that's how I felt for years, every single day, knowing that everything I'd lost was because of someone else's mistake. He stood up. That's it. That's all I came to say. I wanted you to feel scared just for a few minutes, wondering what I was going to do. That's what you took from me, Mrs. Brennan. The ability to ever feel safe again. He walked to the door, and neither of us moved to stop him. He paused with his hand on the doorknob, looked back at us. I hope you think about me sometimes, he said. When you're doing your research, tracking down people's secrets, convinced you're doing the right thing, I hope you remember the kid whose life you destroyed by accident and wonder how many others you've hurt on purpose. Then, he was gone. The door clicked shut behind him, and the house fell into complete silence except for the ticking of the clock on the wall. Mom stood frozen for a long moment. Then her legs seemed to give out, and she sank down onto the couch where Jasper had been sitting. She put her face in her hands and started to cry. Not the delicate, pretty crying you see in movies. The ugly, gut-wrenching sobs of someone whose entire self-image had just been shattered. I didn't know what to do. Part of me wanted to comfort her. Part of me thought she deserved to feel this way. I settled for sitting next to her, close but not touching. I destroyed that boy's life, she finally managed to say between sobs. I was so sure, so absolutely certain I was right. I know, and I didn't even stop. She looked up at me with red, swollen eyes. Even after I found out about Jasper, I kept doing the same things to other people. The Thompsons, the noise complaint. I could have just talked to them. Yeah, why didn't you stop me? The question caught me off guard. What? You knew what I'd done to Jasper? You saw me going after the Thompsons the same way. Why didn't you say something? I thought about it for a moment. Because people are scared of you, Mom, including me sometimes. You're really good at what you do, at finding information and using it, but you never think about the consequences. You never stop to wonder if maybe you're wrong. She started crying again. I put my arm around her shoulders, and she leaned into me like a child seeking comfort. We sat like that for a long time. The stir-fry on the table went cold. The radio played on in the kitchen. Outside, neighbors went about their normal evening routines, completely unaware that in our house, something fundamental had broken and would need to be rebuilt from scratch. Around 10 p.m., Mom finally pulled herself together enough to speak coherently. I need to make this right. How? I don't know yet, but I can't keep being this person. I can't keep hurting people and justifying it because I think I'm right. I wanted to believe her, but I'd seen my mom operate for too long to think one conversation would change everything. Still, maybe it was a start. The first step would be actually stopping, I said carefully. No more digging into people's lives. No more exposing secrets. No more using information as a weapon. She nodded slowly. I don't know if I can do that. It's who I've been for so long. Then maybe you need help figuring out who you are without it. She looked at me, and I saw something I'd never seen in her eyes before. Uncertainty. Vulnerability. My mom, who'd always been so absolutely sure of everything, suddenly looked lost. I'm scared, she admitted. What if people find out I made such a huge mistake? What if they stop being afraid of me and start coming after me instead? Maybe being feared isn't as important as being decent, I suggested. She didn't respond to that, just pulled a tissue from her pocket, wiped her face, and stood up on shaky legs. I'm going to bed. We can talk more about this tomorrow. I watched her walk down the hallway to her bedroom, this small woman who'd wielded information like a weapon for so long that she'd forgotten how much damage it could do. The door closed behind her, and I was left alone in the living room. My phone buzzed. Another text from Jasper. Thank you for not warning her. I needed her to feel what it's like to wait for something bad to happen. I stared at the message for a long time before responding. Did it help? Confronting her? His reply came a few minutes later. I don't know yet, but at least I said what I needed to say. Whether she actually changes is up to her. For what it's worth, I'm sorry about what happened to you. Not your fault. You were just a kid. But I'd benefited from it, hadn't I? From everyone being too scared of my mom to mess with our family. From the reputation she'd built. I'd walked through life with the protection of her ruthlessness without ever questioning the cost to others. She said she wants to make things right, I typed. We'll see. Talk is cheap. Actions matter. He was right. And I had no idea if my mom was actually capable of change or if this was just temporary guilt that would fade once the shock wore off. I turned off the lights and went to my own room. Through the thin walls, I could hear Mom crying again. I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, thinking about consequences and mistakes and the families we destroy without meaning to. Sleep didn't come easy that night. The next morning, Mom was already up when I came into the kitchen. She'd made coffee but hadn't drunk any, just sat at the table staring at her mug like it held answers. I'm calling a therapist today, she said without looking up. I need to figure out why I do this. Why I immediately go nuclear instead of trying normal approaches first. That's good. And I'm going to write Jasper a real apology. Not trying to make myself feel better, just acknowledging what I did and taking responsibility. I poured myself coffee and sat down across from her. What about the Thompsons? She winced. I'll drop the HOA complaints. Maybe bake them an apology pie or something. Mom, you can't bake. I'll buy one then. She finally looked at me, and her eyes were still red from crying. I really screwed up, didn't I? Not just with Jasper, with everyone. Yeah. She appreciated that I didn't sugarcoat it. How do I fix 15 years of being the neighborhood terror? I don't know if you can, but you can start by being different going forward. We sat in silence for a while, both of us processing everything that had happened. The woman across from me looked older somehow, like the confrontation with Jasper had aged her overnight. The certainty that had always defined her was gone, replaced by doubt and shame. People are going to notice, she said quietly. When I stop being me, they're going to wonder why. Let them wonder. My phone rang. It was my girlfriend, Kira, calling earlier than usual. Hey, did something happen last night? You posted this really vague thing on Instagram at like 11 p.m. about consequences and mistakes. I'd forgotten about that. I'd been lying in bed, unable to sleep, and posted something cryptic. Yeah, kind of a family thing. I'll explain later. Is your mom okay? The post made it sound serious. I looked at Mom, who was now scrolling through her phone with a strange expression. She will be, I think. After I hung up, Mom showed me her screen. Jasper posted something on Facebook this morning. It was public post, not tagged to anyone specifically, but clearly meant for us to see. Sometimes the hardest thing is not getting revenge, but letting the person who hurt you live with what they've done. I hope I made my point last night. Comments were already rolling in from people who knew him, asking what happened, if he was okay. He hadn't responded to any of them. He's not going to tell anyone, Mom said, sounding relieved. That doesn't make what you did okay. I know, but it means I have a chance to actually change without everyone knowing exactly why. She set her phone down. I need to tell you something about why I am the way I am. I leaned back in my chair, surprised. Mom never talked about her past. When I was 16, my older sister was assaulted by a guy at her school. She told our parents. They didn't believe her. Said she was probably exaggerating or had wanted it and changed her mind after. The guy's family was well connected, and my parents were more worried about causing problems than protecting their own daughter. I'd never heard any of this before. Mom, let me finish. My sister spiraled. Started using drugs, dropped out of school, eventually died of an overdose when she was 23. And the guy who assaulted her? He went on to have a successful career, happy family, never faced any consequences. So I promised myself that if I ever had power, if I ever had the ability to make people face consequences for their actions, I would use it. I would be what my parents weren't for my sister. She took a shaky breath. But I took it too far. I became so focused on making people face consequences that I stopped checking if they actually deserved it. I just assumed I was always right because my cause was righteous. That's not an excuse, I said quietly. I know, but it's an explanation. And I'm telling you because I want you to understand that I have to unlearn decades of thinking this way. It's not going to happen overnight. We talked for another hour, really talked, about her sister, about the research she'd done on the guy who assaulted her, which had gone nowhere because it was too long ago and there was no evidence, about how she'd channeled all that rage into becoming someone feared instead of someone ignored. By the time she left for work that day, we'd established some ground rules. No more invasive research into neighbors. No more digging into people's lives without explicit permission. No more using information as a weapon. If she felt the urge to go nuclear on someone, she had to call me first and talk it through. What if it's an emergency? She asked. Then call the police like a normal person. She actually laughed at that, a small, sad sound. I don't know how to be a normal person. Then learn. The next week was strange. Mom went to her first therapy appointment and came home looking exhausted. She said the therapist had asked her to make a list of every time she'd used her skills to punish or intimidate someone over the past 5 years. I filled 3 pages, she admitted, and I know I'm forgetting some. She'd also written to Jasper, a real letter this time, not trying to make excuses or ask for forgiveness, just taking full responsibility and acknowledging the damage she'd caused. She wasn't sure if she'd send it yet. I keep trying to make it better, she said, showing me draft after draft. But every version sounds like I'm making it about me and my guilt, instead of about what I did to him. Maybe that's because you are making it about you, I suggested gently. She crumpled up the latest draft. You're right. I need to stop trying to feel better and just focus on being honest. On Thursday, something unexpected happened. Mrs. Thompson from 3 doors down knocked on our door. Mom answered it, and I watched from the living room as Mrs. Thompson handed her a bottle of wine. I wanted to thank you for dropping those complaints, Mrs. Thompson said. I know Tyler's music was getting out of hand. We've talked to him about being more considerate of neighbors. Mom looked uncomfortable. I shouldn't have gone to the HOA without talking to you first. Well, no, but I appreciate that you withdrew them. Mrs. Thompson paused. Are you okay, Dorothy? You seem different lately. Just trying to be a better neighbor, Mom said quietly. After Mrs. Thompson left, Mom set the wine bottle on the counter and stared at it. She was nice to me. Yeah, people are never nice to me. They're polite because they're scared, but never actually nice. Maybe that'll change now. She didn't look convinced. That weekend, something else happened. Jasper responded to Mom's letter. Not with words, but with a package delivered to our house. Inside was every letter Mom had sent him over the past year, unopened, and a single note. I read your newest letter. It was better. But I need more time before I can respond properly. Thank you for being honest about your sister. I'm sorry that happened to her. Mom cried when she read it. He's sorry about my sister. Even after everything I did to him, he's expressing sympathy. He's a better person than most, I said. She nodded, wiping her eyes. I destroyed his life, and he's still capable of kindness. What does that make me? Someone who has a lot of work to do. Over the next few months, I watched my mom slowly transform. It wasn't dramatic or sudden. There were backslides, moments when her old instincts kicked in, and she started researching someone before catching herself. Her therapist said it was a process. That unlearning defense mechanisms that had been in place for decades wouldn't happen quickly. The neighborhood started noticing the change. Mom joined a book club, something she'd never had time for before because she was always too busy with her projects. She started actually socializing with neighbors instead of viewing them as potential threats or targets. People stopped crossing the street when they saw her coming. It's weird, she told me one night. Being normal, not having power over people. But it's also kind of nice. You're making friends. I don't know if I'd call them friends yet, but they're friendly. That's new. 3 months after Jasper's visit, Mom received another letter from him. A real one this time, several pages long. He talked about his therapy, about how he was learning to process what had happened to him, about how he was starting to date someone and was terrified of letting anyone get close because he was so used to having his life ripped apart without warning. He ended the letter with, I don't forgive you. I don't know if I ever will, but I believe you're trying to change, and that matters. Keep going. Mom framed that letter and put it on her bedside table where she'd see it every morning. So I don't forget, she explained. So I remember what happens when I think I'm always right. One evening, about 4 months after everything started, we were having dinner when Mom set down her fork and looked at me seriously. I need to tell you something. My stomach dropped. What? When I was doing my research to find the car thief all those years ago, I also looked into you. What? Why? Because you were 8, and I wanted to know who your friends were, what you were doing online, if you were safe. I tracked your school records, your teachers' backgrounds, your friends' families. I had files on every kid you played with. I felt sick. Mom, I know. It was wrong. I convinced myself I was just being a protective parent, but really I was being a controlling, paranoid person who didn't trust her own son. I stopped after you turned 13, realized I was becoming obsessive, but I want you to know that I did it. Because you deserve to know the truth about who I've been. I didn't know what to say. Part of me had always suspected that Mom knew more about my life than I'd told her, but hearing it confirmed was different. Did you ever use that information against me? I finally asked. No, never, but I could have, and that's what scares me. I was one bad day away from becoming the kind of parent who ruins their kid's life because they think they know best. We sat in uncomfortable silence for a while. Finally, I said, I appreciate you telling me. Even though it's messed up, I'm going to keep telling you things. All the things I've done that I'm not proud of, because I need to own them, and you deserve to know who your mother really is. Not the sanitized version, the real one. Over the next few weeks, she did exactly that. Told me about the coworker she'd gotten fired by exposing that the woman had lied on her resume 15 years ago. The neighbor she'd reported to CPS based on overheard arguments that turned out to be completely innocent. The time she'd tracked down her sister's old boyfriend and sent his wife evidence of affairs from 2 decades ago just to punish him, even though it wouldn't change what had happened to her sister. Each confession was harder than the last. Some made me angry, some made me sad. All of them made me understand that my mom had been fighting a war against injustice for so long that she'd become what she hated. I don't know if I can ever make up for all of it, she said one night. Some of these people, I don't even know where they are now, or how to reach them. Then you focus on the ones you can reach, and you make sure you never do it again to anyone else. She nodded, but I could see the weight of it all crushing her. This was the consequence of spending years being feared. Now that she wanted to change, she had to face everything she'd done. One Friday evening, 6 months after Jasper's visit, I came home to find Mom and Jasper sitting at our kitchen table together. I froze in the doorway, not sure what was happening. Jasper looked up and gave me a small nod. Hey, Levi. Hey, what's going on? Your mom reached out and asked if I'd be willing to meet with her in person. I said yes. I looked at Mom, who seemed nervous in a way I'd never seen before. We're just talking, she said. Jasper's been telling me about his life now, what he's doing. I slowly came into the kitchen, still wary. Should I leave? You can stay if you want, Jasper said. I don't mind. I made myself a sandwich and sat at the table, listening as they continued their conversation. It was surreal. Mom was actually listening, not interrupting, not trying to explain away what she'd done. Jasper was talking about his accounting classes, his girlfriend, his hope of maybe reconciling with his sister someday. I'm applying to transfer to a 4-year university next fall, he said. Should have done it years ago, but I wasn't ready. I am now. That's wonderful, Mom said, and she meant it. There was no condescension, no subtle dig, just genuine happiness for him. After Jasper left, Mom sat at the table for a long time, not saying anything. Finally, he's doing okay. Despite everything I did to him, he's putting his life back together. Yeah, I don't deserve his forgiveness. Probably not, but he's choosing to move forward anyway. You should too. She looked at me with those eyes that had once been so sharp and calculating, now just tired and sad. I'm trying. It's harder than I thought. Change always is. That night, as I was getting ready for bed, I heard Mom on the phone in her room. I paused in the hallway, listening. Yes, I'd like to set up a regular donation to therapy fund for low-income families. Monthly, please. Whatever the maximum allowed is. No, I'd prefer to keep it anonymous. Thank you. When she came out and saw me standing there, she didn't look embarrassed. I can't fix what I did to specific people, but I can maybe help others get the help they need before they spiral like Jasper did. That's good, Mom. It's not enough, but it's something. A year after Jasper's visit, things had settled into a new normal. Mom was still in therapy, still working on herself. She'd made genuine friends in the neighborhood, people who knew her as Dorothy, the librarian, who was great at recommending books and made surprisingly good cookies. Not Dorothy, the person who could ruin your life with a library card and internet access. Jasper had transferred to a 4-year university about 2 hours away. He and Mom exchanged emails occasionally, mostly updates on his life. He'd introduced her to his girlfriend, Emma, who was studying to be a teacher. They'd come over for dinner once, and it had been awkward but not hostile. I'm not ready to forgive you, Jasper had said as they were leaving. But I'm glad you're changing. Keep going. The neighborhood's perception of Mom had shifted. People still remembered the old Dorothy, but they were starting to see the new one too. Mrs. Thompson invited her to join a gardening club. Mr. Patel asked for book recommendations for his daughter. The HOA president thanked her for volunteering to organize the neighborhood watch program, then seemed surprised when Mom turned it down. I don't think I should be in charge of monitoring people, Mom had said. That's too close to my old habits. I'd started dating Kira seriously and bringing her around the house more. At first, she'd been nervous about meeting Mom, having heard stories about the fearsome Dorothy Brennan. But she'd found a woman who was trying to make amends for past mistakes, who apologized readily when she stepped out of line, who was learning to be vulnerable instead of invincible. Your mom's actually kind of sweet, Kira said one night after dinner at our house. Don't let anyone in the neighborhood hear you say that. They're still adjusting to the new version. How long do you think it'll take before people stop being scared of her? I thought about it. I don't know. Maybe never completely. What she did, what she was capable of, that doesn't just go away. But maybe they'll learn to trust that she's not that person anymore. 2 days later, I got a text from Jasper. Want to grab coffee? Got something I want to talk about. We met at a small cafe downtown. He looked healthier than I'd ever seen him, had gained weight in a good way, smiled more easily. College was clearly good for him. I'm writing a book, he said after we'd ordered, about what happened to my family, about the car theft investigation, all of it. My stomach dropped. Does Mom know? Not yet. I wanted to tell you first, see what you thought. Honestly, I think she'd understand. She's been pretty open about taking responsibility for what she did. It's not a revenge book, Jasper clarified. I'm not writing it to hurt her. I'm writing it because my therapist thinks it'll help me process everything, and because maybe other people need to hear about how amateur internet investigations can destroy lives. Have you decided if you're going to use real names? No, still figuring that out. Part of me wants people to know exactly what Dorothy Brennan did, but another part of me thinks that would be falling back into revenge, and I don't want to be that person. For what it's worth, I think Mom would tell you to use her real name if it helps other people understand the consequences of what she did. Jasper smiled slightly. She probably would. She's changed a lot. Yeah. Do you think it's real? The change? I considered it. Yeah, I do. Because it's been hard for her, and she's kept at it even when it would have been easier to slip back into old patterns. She's committed to being different. Good. Because I'd hate to think I wasted my compassion on someone who was just temporarily guilty. We talked for another hour about his book, his classes, his plans for the future. When we parted ways, he said, "Tell your mom I'll be reaching out soon. About the book. I want her perspective on things, if she's willing to talk about it." I relayed the message that night. Mom went pale, then nodded slowly. I'll talk to him, whatever he needs. When Jasper did reach out, they met several times over the next few months. I sat in on a few of the conversations at Mom's request, listened as she walked him through her investigation process. Her mindset at the time, the moment she realized she'd been wrong. I was so certain, she kept saying. The partial plate, the timeline, his presence in the neighborhood that summer. It all lined up perfectly. I never considered that maybe the evidence was pointing to someone in his household, not him specifically. You wanted it to be him, Jasper said, because he was young and you thought a scare would teach him a lesson. Yes, I thought I was being a concerned citizen, protecting the neighborhood. I thought I was doing the right thing. And when you found out you were wrong? Mom's voice broke. I wanted to die. I still have days where I think about what I did to you, to your family, and I want to stop existing.
My fiancé said, I'm taking my sister to the concert instead of you. She deserves it more. I bought those tickets for her birthday, so I let her go have fun while I dismantled everything between us. When she came home and saw what I'd done, she lost her mind. Hey Reddit, my fiancé decided to take her sister to the concert with the tickets I bought for her birthday. I didn't say anything, just waited until she left and did what needed to be done. She came home to an empty apartment and a note. Let me back up a bit so you understand how I ended up here. Name's Jensen, 28 male. I grew up in a working-class neighborhood outside of Cleveland. Dad was a machinist who worked the same factory for 32 years. Mom was an ER nurse who pulled double shifts to make sure we never went without. They taught me two things that stuck. Work hard and don't let anyone treat you like a doormat. Dad used to say that respect isn't given, it's established. You teach people how to treat you by what you tolerate. I thought I got that. Turns out, knowing something and actually living it are two different things. I work in logistics and supply chain coordination for a regional distribution company. I spent my days managing freight schedules, negotiating rates with carriers, tracking shipments across 3 time zones, and fixing problems that happened when trucks broke down in the middle of nowhere. It was stressful work, the kind that gives you gray hairs at 25, but it paid well. I pulled in about 75 grand a year, which in our city meant I could afford a solid 2-bedroom apartment in a decent neighborhood and still put money away for the future. I met Fiona at a friend's wedding 4 years before the incident. She was a bridesmaid. I knew the groom from college. She was stunning in that way where she didn't seem to be trying too hard. Dark hair, bright eyes, a laugh that made you want to be funnier. She had this way of making you feel like you were the only person in the room when she focused on you. We dated for 2 years before I proposed. I did the whole thing right. Asked her father's permission. Planned a trip to this overlook spot where we'd had our first real date. Got down on one knee with my grandmother's ring. She said yes. Cried. We celebrated. I thought I'd found my person. Fiona was 27. She worked part-time as a receptionist at a yoga studio downtown, maybe 20 hours a week. The rest of her time went into building her online presence as a lifestyle influencer. She had about 6,000 followers on Instagram when we got engaged, which she treated like she was on the verge of being discovered by some major brand any day now. I supported it. I paid for the ring light, the camera equipment, the backdrop for her photos, the subscription boxes she'd unbox on video. I figured she was chasing a dream, and that's what partners do. We moved in together 3 months after the engagement. The apartment was in my name because Fiona's credit was wrecked from some old student loans she'd defaulted on during her early 20s. She'd gone to a private college for communications, dropped out after 2 years, and the debt followed her around. No big deal, I figured. We were getting married anyway. I signed the lease solo, put the utilities in my name, handled the internet account. She was just an occupant on paper. Fiona said she was lucky to have me. At the time, I thought that was sweet. Looking back, I realized she was just relieved to find someone willing to carry the load. For the first 6 months, things were genuinely good. We found our rhythm. I worked long hours. She did her content creation thing. We spent weekends together exploring the city or binging shows on the couch. I paid most of the bills because I made more money and she was building her brand. I didn't mind. That's what you do when you're building a life with someone. Then Bridget showed up, Fiona's older sister. She was 30, divorced about a year prior, and had recently moved back to our city after burning through all her options elsewhere. She was one of those people who peaked in high school and spent the rest of her life trying to get back to that feeling. Former homecoming queen, head cheerleader, dated the quarterback, the whole thing. She married her college boyfriend at 22 in this huge wedding that her parents went into debt for. The marriage lasted 7 years before he finally got tired of being treated like a personal assistant who she occasionally slept with. I met the ex-husband once, briefly, at a family barbecue before the divorce was finalized. His name was Evan. He told me out of earshot of the family to watch how Bridget treated service workers. Said it would tell me everything I needed to know about the family dynamics. I didn't understand what he meant at the time. From what I gathered through various family conversations, Evan had asked for the divorce, not Bridget. He'd been planning his exit for over a year, quietly separating finances. When he finally pulled the trigger, Bridget was blindsided. She got the house in the settlement, sold it within 2 months, and blew through the money in about 6 more on. After that, she was between opportunities, which was her way of saying unemployed and too proud to admit it. She crashed with friends in her old city for a few months, burned those bridges, then rotated through various family members. By the time she moved back to our city and landed on our couch, she'd already worn out her welcome with 2 aunts and her parents. She hadn't held a real job in months and showed no signs of looking for one. The dynamic was toxic from day one. She had this way of making everything about her. If Fiona had a good day at work, Bridget had a story about how her day was harder. If I mentioned anything about my job, about the stress or the wins or anything at all, she would roll her eyes and make some comment about how corporate jobs were soul-crushing prisons for people without creativity. She didn't have a job herself, mind you. Hadn't had one since before the divorce finalized. But she had plenty of opinions about mine. She showed up 3 to 4 days a week, sometimes more. She'd let herself in with the spare key Fiona had given her without asking me. She'd eat food from our fridge, stuff I'd bought on my grocery runs. She'd leave dishes in the sink for days. She'd hog our TV watching whatever reality show she was into. She barely acknowledged my existence unless she needed something. 3 months into this arrangement, I'd had enough. I waited until one evening when Bridget had left, and I pulled Fiona aside. "Look," I said, keeping my voice calm. "I get that she's your sister, and she's going through a rough patch. But this has been going on for months. She's here all the time. She eats our food. She uses our utilities. Can we maybe set some limits? Like a schedule for visits? Or a timeline for when she's going to find her own place?" Fiona's face went cold immediately. "She's family, Jensen. She's going through the worst time of her life. Her marriage fell apart. She lost her house. I can't believe you're being this selfish." "I'm not being selfish. I'm asking for basic boundaries. She ate an entire rotisserie chicken yesterday. By herself. That was supposed to be dinner for 2 nights. You're being petty. It's just food. I'm being practical. We're supposed to be saving for a wedding. We talked about a venue deposit next month. I can't save money when I'm feeding 3 people on 1 income while she contributes nothing. So this is about money. Nice?" She crossed her arms. "Real nice. It's about respect. I kept my voice level, even though I wanted to yell. She doesn't respect our space, our time, or our relationship. She makes comments about my job. She leaves her stuff everywhere. She never says thank you for anything." Fiona didn't respond for a long moment. Then she hit me with the line that should have sent me running. If you really loved me, you'd understand that family comes first. Always. Bridget won't be here forever. She just needs time to get back on her feet. If you can't handle supporting my family during a hard time, then maybe I don't know you as well as I thought I did. I dropped it. That was my first major mistake. Not because I was wrong, but because I let her twist reasonable boundaries into some kind of character flaw. That's how it starts. They test you with small stuff, see what you'll put up with, then push a little further, and a little further. One time, about 5 months in, Bridget borrowed my car because hers was in the shop, said she needed it for a job interview. I found out later there was no interview. She'd driven 40 miles to meet some guy from a dating app, racked up a parking ticket downtown, and returned my car with the gas light on. When I mentioned the ticket, she laughed and said I could probably afford it. Nothing changed after my conversation with Fiona. If anything, Bridget's presence got worse. There was a guy at my job named Owen. He was about 40, worked in vendor relations, and he was one of those people who seemed to know everyone in a 3-state radius. 20 years in the logistics industry meant he had contacts everywhere. Trucking companies, warehouse managers, port authorities, venue operators, you name it. If there was a connection to be made, Owen had probably already made it over lunch at some industry conference. More importantly, Owen was a genuinely good guy. He'd taken me under his wing when I started at the company, back when I was a 24-year-old kid. We grabbed lunch together at least once a week, and those conversations were often the best part of my day. Owen had also been through his own divorce about 8 years back. His ex-wife had cheated on him with his business partner, and the fallout had nearly destroyed him. He'd remarried a woman who actually appreciated him, and came out the other side with a lot of hard-won wisdom about relationships. He never said anything directly about Fiona and Bridget, but I could tell from the way he'd raise his eyebrows during my stories that he saw where this was heading long before I did. About 6 weeks before Fiona's birthday, Owen and I were grabbing lunch at this taco place near the office. I mentioned I was trying to find tickets to see the Midnight Echo. They were this indie synth-pop band that had been underground for years before their third album went viral. Fiona was obsessed with them. She'd been playing their music constantly, had their poster in our apartment, followed every member on social media. They were doing a single show in our city as part of their tour, and tickets had sold out in literally minutes. Scalpers were asking $700 or $800 per ticket, which was insane for a band most people had never heard of 2 years ago. Owen leaned back in his chair. My brother-in-law works event security at that venue. Let me make a call. I told him not to go out of his way, but Owen was already texting. A week and a half later, Owen came through. 2 floor seats, not VIP but solid placement, for $450 total. Face value. In a market where scalpers were gouging people for 3 times that amount, this was huge. He wouldn't even let me pay him back for making the calls. You sure about this? He asked when he handed me the tickets. Big gesture for someone who's got her sister camped out on your couch. I told him it would be fine, that this was about me and Fiona, not Bridget. Owen just nodded, but I could tell he wasn't buying it. Said watching me try to navigate this relationship was payment enough. I kept the tickets secret for 3 weeks. The concert was scheduled for the Saturday after Fiona's birthday, which fell on a Wednesday. My plan was to give them to her on her actual birthday, so she'd have a few days to get excited. We'd make a whole night of it. Dinner at her favorite restaurant beforehand, the show, maybe dessert after at that rooftop spot she'd been wanting to try. Just the 2 of us. No Bridget, a real date night for the first time in months. Wednesday came. I left work early, stopped by her favorite bakery and picked up a small cake. I had the tickets printed out in an envelope with a card I'd written myself. Something simple about how much I loved her and how I couldn't wait to share this experience together. I got home around 5 p.m. Bridget was there. Of course she was. She was sprawled on my couch in what I'm pretty sure was Fiona's robe, scrolling through her phone with her feet on my coffee table. She didn't look up when I walked in. Fiona was in the bedroom doing her makeup for a birthday dinner we had planned with friends later that evening. Hey, I said, setting down the cake and sliding the envelope across the dresser. Happy birthday. Open this one first. She picked it up with curiosity. When she pulled out the tickets, her whole face lit up. Eyes wide, mouth open, genuine shock. No way. The Echo? Floor seats? These are sold out everywhere. How did you even get these? I know a guy, I said, enjoying her reaction. I thought we could make a real night of it. Dinner beforehand? The show? Maybe grab dessert after at that rooftop place you wanted to try. She jumped up and hugged me. For about 30 seconds, maybe 45, everything felt like it used to. Like we were actually a couple who loved each other, instead of 2 people going through the motions while her sister ate all our food. Then Bridget appeared in the doorway. "What's going on?" she asked, leaning against the doorframe with that annoyed look. "Jensen got me tickets to the Midnight Echo," Fiona said, holding them up. "Floor seats. For Saturday." Bridget's face went through a whole thing that I watched in real time. Surprise, then jealousy, then something that made my stomach tighten. She pushed off the doorframe and walked closer, actually taking one of the tickets from Fiona's hand to look at it. "Oh my God," she breathed. "You know I've been dying to see them, right? Remember, we used to listen to their first album in my car in high school? Before they were famous? This was our thing." I watched the shift happen. Fiona's eyes moved between me and her sister. "I remember," she said slowly. I caught the look they exchanged, but I didn't say anything because I figured even Fiona wouldn't be that bold. I was dead wrong. The conversation happened 2 days later, on Friday night. I was in the kitchen making dinner. Pasta with a creamy tomato sauce from scratch, garlic bread, Caesar salad. Bridget had been over every single day since the birthday, which wasn't unusual, but the vibe was different. She and Fiona kept having these hushed conversations that stopped the second I walked into the room. Around 7 p.m., Fiona came into the kitchen. "So I've been thinking about tomorrow," she started, leaning against the counter. I stirred the sauce. "What about it?" Bridget is really struggling right now. The divorce stuff, not having her own place, the job search that keeps going nowhere. She's been really down lately. Okay. And you know how much she loves the Echo. They were her favorite band before they were mine. She's the one who got me into their music back in high school. I put the spoon down and turned to face her. I could feel where this was going. "Where is this going, Fiona?" She did this dramatic sigh. "I think I should take Bridget to the concert instead of you." I stared at her. "She needs this more than you do," she continued. "You don't even know all their songs. You're just going to stand there while Bridget and I actually connect with the music. She's been through so much, and this could really boost her mood. She needs a win." I leaned against the counter and crossed my arms. "Let me make sure I'm hearing this right," I said. "I spent $450 on tickets for your birthday. I called in a favor from a coworker who went out of his way to help. I planned a date night for us. And you want to bring your sister instead? You're making it sound worse than it is. How should it sound?" She huffed, annoyed. "It's my gift. I should get to decide what I do with it. And if you really loved me, you'd want me to have the best time possible. Bridget will appreciate it more than you will. She actually gets the music." I felt something shift in my chest, like everything finally snapping into focus after staring at a blurry picture for 2 years. "What about what I want?" I asked. "What about the fact that I wanted to spend this night with you? That I planned this for us to actually have time together? Don't be selfish, Jensen. Bridget is family. She's blood. You and I can do something else some other time." There it was. I would always be below her sister. The guy who paid the bills and bought the gifts ranked lower than the woman who contributed nothing and took everything. Something just switched off inside me. "Fine," I said. I turned back to the stove. "Take Bridget. If that's what you want, go ahead." She blinked, surprised by how fast I gave in. "Really? You're okay with it?" "Yeah." She rushed over and hugged me from behind. I stood there, stiff, staring at the sauce bubbling on the stove. "Thank you so much. I knew you'd get it. You're the best. M." She was already pulling out her phone to text Bridget the good news. I didn't sleep that night. Not out of sadness, but because I was planning. See, here's what Fiona didn't know, or didn't bother to think about. The apartment was in my name. The lease, the utilities, the internet, everything. When we'd moved in together, her credit was too wrecked to be on anything official. She was just an occupant. I'd asked Owen's brother, who was a lawyer, about my situation early on. I just wanted to make sure I wasn't doing anything stupid. He told me I was on solid ground, though he reminded me every situation is different. The engagement ring was also still legally mine. She'd pushed for us to get it appraised and added to her insurance policy, but I dragged my feet on the paperwork. Kept saying I'd get to it next week. The ring was a family heirloom, my grandmother's diamond reset with a new band. My mother had given it to me with the understanding that if the engagement didn't work out, it came back to the family. It was worth about $8,000, and it was currently sitting in Fiona's jewelry box. Saturday morning, I called in sick to work. Fiona was at the yoga studio until noon, covering someone's shift. Bridget was wherever Bridget went when she wasn't on my couch. I made coffee, sat down at the kitchen table with a legal pad, and started making calls. First call was to Owen. I told him what happened. There was a long silence on the other end. "She did what?" Owen finally said. "She's taking her sister. The sister who's been crashing on our couch rent-free for 8 months. He let out a slow breath. "What do you need?" "I need to know if your wife's cousin still manages that apartment complex on the east side. The one with the month-to-month leases. 3 hours later, I had signed a lease for a one-bedroom unit starting that day. First month plus security deposit came out to about $1,900. I wrote the check without blinking. Second call was to my landlord. Our current lease had rolled month to month after the first year, which means I could get out with 30 days notice. I called Dominic, explained I needed out now, and offered to pay a full month's rent as a penalty, plus forfeit my security deposit. You sure about this? Dominic asked. Sounds pretty final. I'm very sure. There was a pause. I'll have the place listed by Tuesday. Keys in the Dropbox by Sunday night. Third call was to a moving company that specialized in rush jobs. Saturday evening service while she was at the concert. 3 guys, 4 hours, $1,100. Then there was the ring. Fiona had this habit of taking it off when she showered. She kept it in her jewelry box on the dresser, right next to the perfume bottles and the earring tree. I waited until she was in the bathroom getting ready for the concert. I walked into the bedroom, opened the jewelry box, and took my grandmother's ring. I slipped it into my pocket and walked out. She never noticed. The afternoon dragged. Fiona was buzzing around the apartment trying on different outfits, video calling Bridget to coordinate their looks. She tried on 3 different dresses before settling on the black one I'd bought her for our anniversary dinner 6 months ago. I sat on the couch, pretending to watch TV, mentally running through everything in the apartment that belonged to me. Couch, TV, dining table and chairs, bed frame and mattress, the kitchen equipment, all mine. Fiona's contributions to the place were her clothes, her makeup, her yoga mats, and the pile of stuff Bridget had accumulated over 8 months of squatting. She arrived around 5 p.m. She walked in without knocking, like always, and barely glanced my way. Ready? She asked Fiona. Almost. Fiona came out of the bedroom. She grabbed her purse and headed for the door. She paused, looking back at me on the couch. We'll probably get food after the show, so don't wait up. There's leftovers in the fridge. Have fun, I said. It was the last fun she was ever going to have at my expense. The moving crew arrived at 6:30 p.m., exactly when I told them to. 3 guys in a white box truck. The foreman was a big dude named Ray, who looked like someone who'd loaded 1,000 apartments and nothing fazed him anymore. Graybeard, forearms like tree trunks. I met them in the parking lot and shook hands. So what's the deal? Ray asked as we walked toward the building. Just so I know what we're working with. I told him about it. Then I walked them through the apartment, pointing out what went and what stayed. Everything except the stuff in that corner, I said, gesturing to Fiona's belongings. That stays. Everything else goes. Ray looked at the pile, then scanned the rest of the apartment. The couch alone is probably worth more than all that combined. I'm aware. They worked fast. Within 90 minutes, the living room was stripped. Couch, gone. TV, gone. Coffee table, entertainment center, bookshelves, all loaded into the truck. The dining room went next. Table, chairs, the nice light fixture I'd bought to replace the ugly one the apartment came with. By 9 p.m., the apartment looked like a crime scene. Empty walls, dust outlines where furniture used to be. The only things remaining were Fiona's belongings, and one folding chair I left in the middle of the living room. I did a final sweep, checked every drawer, every closet, every cabinet, made sure I hadn't left anything behind that mattered. Then I got to the bathroom. I took the nice towels, the ones I'd bought at a home goods store when we moved in. I took the shower curtain. I took the bath mat and the toilet paper, because I'd just bought a 24-pack the week before, and I wasn't leaving that behind. I sat down at the kitchen counter, the only surface left in the apartment, and wrote the note on the back of an old electric bill. Fiona, she can have the tickets, and you can have the life you actually wanted. The lease is terminated. Dominic will be here Monday at 9 a.m. for the walkthrough. You have until then to get your stuff out. Do not contact me. The engagement is over. The ring belongs to my family and is back where it belongs. Good luck, Jensen. I left the note next to her keys. Then I locked the door, walked downstairs, and dropped my keys in Dominic's Dropbox. I drove to my new apartment, unpacked the essentials, ordered Chinese food from a place that delivered late, sat on my couch in my new quiet living room, and ate Kung Pao chicken while blocking every number I could think of. Fiona, Bridget, their mother, their aunt who I'd met once at Thanksgiving, every mutual friend who might try to play peacemaker. Then I turned off my phone and went to sleep. Best sleep I'd had in 2 years. The fallout started Sunday morning. Owen called me around 10 a.m., sounding impressed. So it's done? He asked. It's done. Good for you, man. Seriously, that took guts. But you know she's gonna come after you, right? I know. I'm ready. What I wasn't ready for was how fast they got organized. Around 2 p.m., I got a knock on my door. I hadn't told anyone my new address except Owen, my parents, and my landlord. I looked through the peephole and saw Fiona's mother, Michelle. I didn't open the door. I know you're in there, Nathan. She knocked again, harder. We need to talk about what you did to my daughter. She's sitting in an empty apartment with no furniture and nowhere to go. This is not how grown-ups handle problems. I stayed quiet. The knocking continued for about 10 minutes. She gave me a whole lecture through the door about responsibility, about commitment, about how I owed Fiona an explanation at the very least. When I didn't respond, she slipped a note under the door. This isn't over. You owe Fiona an apology and the ring. Call me when you're ready to act like a man. I threw it in the trash. The next morning at work, I told Owen what happened with Michelle. He shook his head. They tracked you down that fast? Her husband works for the city. Probably ran my new address through some database. I don't know. Doesn't matter. She can knock all she wants. Owen leaned back in his chair. You know what this means, right? They're freaking out. They expected you to cave. You didn't. Now they've got nothing. He was dead on. Everything that happened after that had the energy of people making it up as they went. Monday was more interesting. I got to work around 7:30, figuring an early start would help me focus. Around 10 a.m., I got a call from building security. There's a woman at reception asking for you. Says she's your fiancé. Ex-fiancé, I corrected. Don't let her up. I'll come down. I took the elevator to the lobby. Fiona was standing near the security desk looking rough. Hair unwashed, sweats, red eyes. Bridget was with her, arms crossed, looking like she wanted to throw hands. Jensen, we need to talk. No, we don't. You can't just do this. Her voice cracked. You can't disappear and leave me with nothing. We were supposed to get married. We were. Bridget stepped forward. You're crazy. Who does this? Who takes an engagement ring back? I didn't take anything that wasn't mine. We weren't married. It was a family heirloom that comes back if the engagement ends. It ended. The ring came back. You're gonna regret this, Bridget said. I doubt it. Fiona started crying. Jensen, please, I'm sorry. The concert thing was dumb, but you can't throw away 4 years over one mistake. I looked at her and felt nothing. You told me your sister deserved it more, that I was just gonna stand there while you two actually enjoyed it. Those were your exact words. I didn't mean it like that. Yeah, you did. I turned and walked back toward the elevators. Security stepped forward to escort them out. This isn't over, Fiona shouted. I kept walking. The elevator doors closed. But it wasn't over. Not by a long shot. 2 days later, I got served at work. Fiona had found some bargain bin lawyer willing to write up a demand letter, claiming I owed her damages for the sudden move, emotional distress, and the ring. Owen's brother looked it over and called me that afternoon. This is garbage. The ring's a conditional gift. Condition wasn't met. The apartment was in your name. She's got nothing. He sent a response letter that politely pointed out, I had 8 months of documented grocery receipts and utility payments that could easily be framed as supporting her unemployed sister. The demand letter went away within a week. But Bridget wasn't done being a pain. About a week after the lobby thing, I started getting weird calls at work. Someone would call the main line, ask to speak to me, then hang up when transferred. It happened 4 or 5 times before our receptionist, Dana, started screening. There's a woman who keeps calling for you, Dana told me. Won't give her name, won't leave a message. Sounds pretty hostile, honestly. I had a pretty good idea who it was. Bridget had nothing but time, and apparently decided to spend it making my work life annoying. Then, the social media stuff started. Fiona posted a long rant on Instagram about narcissistic partners and emotional abandonment. She didn't use my name directly, but she dropped enough details that mutual friends figured it out within hours. The post got about 200 likes and a flood of sympathetic comments from people who only knew her version. A few people from our shared friend group reached out asking for my side. I gave them the short answer. Most of them got it immediately. A couple thought I overreacted. One guy I barely knew sent me a long message about how I needed to work on my communication skills. I blocked him too. Here's the thing about these situations. Some people will always take the other side, no matter what. They've already decided who the bad guy is and nothing changes their mind. I stopped caring what any of them thought. The last thing happened over the next 2 months. Owen kept me posted through his network. Fiona and Bridget had moved.
Enough that people have been DMing me asking for news. Here's where things stand. Hannah got into 3 state universities. Full ride to one of them based on her grades and her personal essay about overcoming family trauma. She cried when she got the acceptance letter. Happy tears this time. She's leaving in August. I'm proud of her, but the apartment's going to feel empty. As for me, I used part of the inheritance money to enroll in community college. Night classes. I'm working toward an associate's degree in business management. Maybe I'll run my own warehouse someday. Maybe something else. But I'm finally doing something for myself. The weirdest development came 3 weeks ago. I got a letter from my dad. Actually mailed, not texted or emailed. Handwritten, 3 pages. It was mostly bullshit. Excuses about his unemployment, his stress, his desperation. How he'd convinced himself he deserved that money because he'd taken care of his father at the end while I was off living my life. But buried in the 3rd page was something that felt real. I was jealous of you. Your grandfather always liked you better, talked about you constantly, left you money he never offered me. I worked for that man for 20 years and he still chose you. I know that doesn't excuse what I did. I know I destroyed our family. But I need you to understand that it wasn't just about money. It was about feeling like I mattered to him and realizing I never did. I read that letter 5 times, trying to figure out if I felt bad for him. I didn't. Understanding why someone hurt you doesn't mean you have to forgive them. My dad's jealousy and insecurity weren't my problem. He made his choices. I made mine. I didn't respond to the letter, but I didn't throw it away either. I put it in a box with all the legal documents from the case. Maybe someday I'll want to remember how it all went down. Maybe not. Hannah saw it on the counter before I put it away. "Did you read it?" she asked. "Yeah." "Are you going to write back?" "No." She nodded. "Good. He doesn't deserve it." We ordered Chinese food that night. Hannah told me about her boyfriend, this kid from her calculus class who wants to be an engineer. I pretended to be stern about it, but she just laughed. "You're not dad," she said. "You don't get to do the scary protective brother thing. Watch me try." She smiled. "You know what's funny? When I think about family now, I think about you, not them. It's like they're people I used to know, and you're the person who matters." "You're the person who matters to me too," I said. And I meant it. We've been through hell. We've lost a lot. But we've gained something too. Something real. Something that isn't based on obligation or genetics or guilt. It's based on showing up, on making hard choices, on protecting each other when no one else would. That's family, the real kind. Final update, 1 year later. It's been almost 3 years since Christmas dinner. Since my dad told me I was a burden and my life split into before and after. Hannah's finishing her sophomore year of college. She's studying psychology, says she wants to help kids from messed up families. She comes home on breaks. We video chat every Sunday. She's got a serious boyfriend now, the engineering student. I met him at Thanksgiving. He seems decent, treats her well. I finished my associate's degree, applied to a university program for business management. Got in. I'm starting in the fall. Working full-time and going to school, but I've been doing that for 2 years now. I can handle it. The apartment doesn't feel empty anymore. I got used to living alone. Kind of like it, actually. I went on a few dates. Nothing serious yet. Turns out having your family implode and sue your father makes for complicated dinner conversation. But I'm not in a hurry. 3 months ago, I got another letter from my dad. This one was shorter, just a few lines. "I'm working again. Warehouse job, like you. The irony isn't lost on me. I'm paying back everyone I owe, slowly. Your mother and I are divorced. She's still in Virginia. I don't know if I'll ever fix what I broke, but I want you to know I think about it every day. I think about you and Hannah every day." I still didn't respond. But something in me shifted when I read it. Not forgiveness. I'm not there. Maybe I'll never be. But I realized I wasn't angry anymore. Anger takes energy. It keeps you connected to the person you're angry at. And I didn't want to be connected to him anymore. I wanted to be free, so I let it go. Not the memory, not the lessons I learned, but the active anger, the constant loop of what he did and what I lost. I let it go, Hannah noticed. "You seem different," she said over winter break. "Lighter." "Yeah," I said. "I think I'm finally okay." Because of Dad's letter? Because I realized his guilt isn't mine to carry. I did what I had to do. He did what he chose to do. And now we both have to live with it. She was quiet. Then she said, "I got a letter from Mom." That surprised me. "When?" 2 weeks ago. She wants to meet. Says she's been in therapy. Says she understands now that she failed us. Do you want to meet her? I don't know. Part of me wants to hear her out. Part of me thinks it's too late. It's your choice. Whatever you decide, I'll support you. She ended up meeting Mom at a coffee shop near campus. I didn't go. She called me after. "How was it?" "Weird. She looks older. She cried a lot. Apologized for choosing Dad over us. Said she was scared and didn't know what to do." "Do you believe her?" "I think she believes it. I don't know if that's the same thing. Are you going to see her again?" "Maybe, but not anytime soon. She doesn't get to just come back because she's sorry. I was proud of her for that. For knowing her worth. For not accepting scraps of affection from someone who'd thrown her away. Last week, I drove past my old neighborhood. The house sold again. New family living there now. I didn't feel anything looking at it. No nostalgia. No anger. It was just a house where some stuff happened once. I kept driving. That night, I sat down and finally let myself think about what I'd want to say to my dad if I ever saw him again. Not in anger, just truth. I'd tell him that he taught me what kind of man not to be. He taught me that blood doesn't make you family, choices do. He taught me that sometimes the bravest thing you can do is walk away from people who hurt you, even if they're your parents. I'd tell him that I'm okay now, that Hannah's okay, that we built something good from the mess he left behind, and I'd tell him that I hope he finds peace. But I don't need to be part of that process. Then, I'd walk away, and I wouldn't look back. But I haven't seen him, and honestly, I probably never will. That chapter is closed. These days, I'm focused on what's ahead, on my degree, on my future, on being there for Hannah as she builds her life, on maybe, eventually, building a family of my own, one based on respect and honesty and actually showing up. Because that's what I learned from all of this. Family isn't who you're born to, it's who you choose, who chooses you, who stays when things get hard. Hannah chose me, I chose her, and that's enough. Sometimes people ask if I regret how things went down, if I wish I'd handled it differently, if I think I should have tried to work it out privately instead of involving lawyers and police. The answer is no. My dad committed fraud. He stole from me. He kicked me out to hide it. He destroyed Hannah's phone and cornered her in her room. Those aren't things you work out over family dinner. Those are crimes. And they had consequences. I did what I had to do to protect myself and my sister. I'd do it again, every single time. Because some things matter more than keeping the peace, more than maintaining appearances, more than pretending everything's fine when it's not. Things like truth and justice and protecting the people who depend on you. 3 years ago, at Christmas dinner, my dad called me a burden. He was wrong. I wasn't the burden. His lies were. His theft was. His jealousy and insecurity were. And once I walked away from all of that, once I stopped carrying weight that was never mine to carry, I finally got to find out who I actually am. I'm a college student, a warehouse supervisor, a brother, a fighter, a survivor. I'm someone who knows what it costs to stand up for yourself, and I'm someone who knows it's worth it. That's my story. That's what happened when my dad called me a burden and I decided to stop being one. I walked away. I fought back. I protected my sister, and I built a life worth living. And if you're reading this because you're in a similar situation, because your family is hurting you or using you or stealing from you, I want you to know something. You're not the burden. You never were, and you deserve better. So take it. Fight for it. Walk away if you have to. Build something new, because you're worth it. And sometimes, the best revenge is simply refusing to carry someone else's dysfunction on your back anymore. Be free, be strong, and remember that the family you choose is just as valid as the family you were born into. Maybe more so. Update, 2 years later, the complete end. I'm 28 now. Hannah's 23, graduated college last month with honors. She's got a job lined up at a youth counseling center. She's engaged to that engineering student, Garrett. The wedding's next spring. She asked me to walk her down the aisle. I cried when she asked. Happy tears. I got my bachelor's degree, working as an operations manager now at a different company. Better pay, better hours. I bought a small house, 2 bedrooms, fenced yard. It's mine, all mine. I'm dating someone. Her name's Iris. She's a teacher, funny and smart, and she doesn't take my shit. She knows my whole story. Didn't run away. That means something. My dad reached out again 6 months ago, asked if we could talk. I thought about it for a week. Then I said yes. We met at a park, neutral ground. He looked old. Gray hair, deep lines around his eyes, thinner than I remembered. We sat on a bench and didn't talk for 5 minutes. Just sat there. Finally, he said, I don't expect you to forgive me. I don't deserve it. No, you don't. I want you to know I've paid back everyone I owed. Your money, the credit cards I opened in your name, everything. It took 3 years, but it's done. Okay, I'm in therapy, trying to understand why I did what I did. My therapist says I have issues with inadequacy and control, that I took out my failures on you because you represented everything I wasn't. I looked at him, really looked, and I saw a broken man who destroyed his own life because he couldn't handle his emotions like an adult. I can't give you absolution, I said. That's not mine to give. I know. You stole from me. You threw me out. You scared Hannah. Those are facts. Therapy doesn't erase them. I know, he said again. But I don't hate you anymore. I don't feel much of anything when I think about you. And maybe that's the best we'll ever get. He nodded, tears in his eyes. You turned out good, despite me. Because of you. Because of me, I agreed. We talked for another hour, not about reconciliation, just about facts. Where we were, what we were doing, surface level stuff. When we left, he asked if we could do it again sometime. Maybe, I said, but don't expect things to go back to how they were. That family is gone, dead. If we build something new, it'll be on my terms. I understand. I haven't seen him since. But he texts sometimes, just small things. Hope you're doing well, proud of your accomplishments. He never asks for more than I'm willing to give. Hannah hasn't seen him, doesn't want to, and I respect that. Mom's still in Virginia. Hannah sees her maybe twice a year. It's cordial but distant. Mom never apologized in a way that mattered, just said sorry and expected that to fix everything. It didn't. But Hannah's okay with it. She's not waiting for her mother to become someone she's not. Last week, I was helping Hannah move into her new apartment, the one she'll share with Garrett after the wedding. We were unpacking boxes and I found a photo album I'd never seen. Inside were pictures from our childhood, birthdays, holidays, random days, and in every single one where I was in the frame, I was in the background, out of focus, half cut off. Hannah saw me looking. "That's why I never showed you," she said. "Even in the pictures, they made you invisible." I closed the album. "I'm not invisible anymore." "No," she smiled. "You're not." We finished unpacking, ordered pizza, sat on her new couch in her new apartment in her new life. "You know what's funny?" she said. "I used to be so scared of ending up like Mom and Dad, broken and bitter and blaming everyone else for my problems. You're nothing like them. Because of you, you showed me what it looks like to choose yourself, to set boundaries, to build something better. You did that," I said. "I just didn't abandon you. That's everything, though. You didn't abandon me. When you could have, when it would have been easier. You stayed." I hugged my sister. My brilliant, strong, incredible sister who survived the same house I did and came out fighting. "Always," I said. "I'll always stay." I called my son's girlfriend daughter and I'll never forget her reaction. My son's been dating Sydney for 2 years now. Before she first visited, he gave me one strict rule. Don't mention her mother or any family members. Something bad happened and she's completely cut off from them. I didn't ask for details. It wasn't my place. When I met Sydney, I genuinely liked her. She's thoughtful, respectful, and you can tell she loves my son. We bonded quickly despite only meeting a handful of times. Last week, they came to visit while I was working on my truck in the driveway. Just routine maintenance, oil change, checking tire pressure, basic stuff. Sydney wandered outside looking curious. "What are you doing?" I wiped my hands. "Just some basic upkeep. Keeps the truck running smooth." She watched for a minute, then admitted, "I don't know the first thing about cars. I've always just paid a mechanic for everything." I was surprised. "Even basic stuff like this?" She nodded, almost embarrassed. "Yeah, my dad never taught me, and after he passed, I just never learned. I can teach you a couple things if you want," I offered. "Save you some money. These basics aren't hard." Her face lit up. "Really? You wouldn't mind?" For the next 30 minutes, I showed her how to check tire pressure, find the oil dipstick, check fluid levels. She was a fast learner, asked good questions, wasn't afraid to get her hands dirty. When she successfully checked the last tire on her own, I felt genuinely proud. I smiled, patted her shoulder, and without thinking said, "Well done, my daughter." The words just slipped out. It's what I always said to my son when he learned something new. But instantly, everything changed. Sydney's smile vanished. Her face went pale. Then her eyes filled with tears. Deep, gut-wrenching, sobbing. She dropped to her knees on the garage floor, wailing, full body shaking, curled up in a ball. I crouched down immediately. "Sydney, what's wrong?" But she couldn't respond. She was hyperventilating, crying so hard she couldn't breathe. I tried everything, rubbing her back, offering water, but nothing worked. My son came running out, face going from confused to panicked. "What happened?" "I don't know. We were just..." He didn't wait. He helped Sydney inside to his old bedroom. The door closed. I stood frozen in my driveway, completely lost. 2 hours passed. My son brought her dinner upstairs. Finally, around 9 p.m., he came down. His face was hard. "What did you say to her?" I explained everything. The car work. How I'd said, "Well done, my daughter," because I was proud. His face turned red. "Are you serious? I specifically told you not to mention her family." "I didn't mention her family. I just said daughter because that's what you say when you're proud." It slipped out. "Well, you triggered something," he snapped. "She's having a complete breakdown upstairs. Can I apologize, please? I didn't mean to hurt her. Forget it. She's not ready to talk." He went back upstairs. I barely slept that night. 2 days of silence passed. Then my son called. "Can you come over? Sydney wants to talk." My stomach dropped. Of course. When I arrived, my son hugged me immediately. "I'm sorry for yelling. I should have handled that better." "It's okay. I understand." "Sydney's in the bedroom. She wants to talk privately." I walked down the hall and knocked softly. Sydney was sitting on the bed, eyes red. She started apologizing immediately. "I'm so sorry for breaking down like that. I'm a grown woman. I should control my emotions better. I haven't had a meltdown like that in 3 years." I sat across from her. "You don't need to apologize. I'm sorry for hurting you." She took a shaky breath. "It's not your fault. You didn't know. I just need to explain." Then she told me everything. Her dad died her senior year of college. Her parents married young. Her mom was pregnant, both barely adults. Money was always tight. After her dad passed, she tried staying close to her mother. She'd visit regularly, usually with her boyfriend, until one afternoon when she showed up unannounced. She found her boyfriend in bed with her own mother. Sydney ran down the hallway, her sobs echoing through the house she grew up in. She stumbled down the basement stairs, the one place that still felt like her dad's sanctuary. But the door to his workshop was open, the lock broken. Inside, she found boxes labeled with dates, dozens of them, all from the last 2 years of his life. Sydney opened the first one and found surveillance equipment, photos, recordings, all documenting her mother and boyfriend together. The last item was a letter addressed to her dated the day before her father died that started with, "Sydney, if you're reading this, they've already killed me and you're next because you're the only heir left, and I'm writing this in case I don't make it through tomorrow. Your mother and Trent planned everything. The life insurance policy I took out 6 months ago for $2.5 million. They think I don't know, but I know everything." Sydney's hands trembled as she held the letter. The basement felt colder suddenly. She kept reading. "I installed cameras everywhere after I overheard them talking in the garage. October 15th. Your mother said my heart medication would be easy to tamper with. Trent laughed and said it would look natural. A man my age having a heart attack. No one would question it." Sydney's stomach turned. She looked at the date on the letter. October 29th. Her father died October 30th. "I've documented everything. Videos, audio recordings, bank statements showing the money they've been moving. Your mother opened a secret account 3 months ago. Same week she convinced me to increase my life insurance. The evidence is all here, organized by date. Take it to Detective Morrison at the precinct. He's the only one I trust." The letter continued. "Sydney, you're in danger. The policy names you as beneficiary if your mother dies within 5 years of my death. They know this. I heard them discussing it last week. Trent said accidents happen to young women all the time. Your mother didn't disagree. She just asked how long they'd have to wait to make it look unrelated." Sydney couldn't breathe. The basement walls felt like they were closing in. "I'm changing my will tomorrow. Everything goes into a trust that releases to you on your 30th birthday. Your mother gets nothing. If something happens to me, she'll be furious and desperate. Stay away from her, Sydney. Get this evidence to Morrison immediately. Don't trust anyone else. Don't tell your mother you found this. Just disappear if you need to. Live your life somewhere she can't find you. I love you more than anything. You've always been the light of my life. I'm sorry I couldn't protect you better. Dad." Sydney set the letter down with shaking hands. She went through the rest of the boxes methodically. Her father had been thorough. 19 thumb drives, each labeled with dates and descriptions. Audio recordings from hidden microphones. Her mother and Trent in the kitchen discussing how to spike his medication. Her mother on the phone with Trent talking about timing, making sure they had alibis. One video made Sydney's blood run cold. Her mother standing in the garage holding her father's pill organizer, carefully emptying capsules and replacing the contents with something else. Trent standing watch by the door. The timestamp read October 28th. 2 days before her father died. There were bank statements showing transfers to offshore accounts. Emails between her mother and Trent going back 3 years, long before her father got sick. They'd been planning this since Sydney was 19. The final folder contained a copy of the will her father filed the day before he died. Everything to Sydney in a trust managed by his lawyer, Garrett Walsh. Her mother was specifically excluded. A note attached explained that Walsh had the original and instructions to contact Sydney directly when she turned 30, bypassing her mother entirely. Sydney heard footsteps upstairs, her mother's voice calling her name, then Trent's lower voice joining in. They were both there, in her father's house. She grabbed the letter, shoved 3 thumb drives in her jacket pocket, and looked for another way out. The basement had a storm door leading to the backyard. She pushed it open as quietly as possible and climbed out into the afternoon sun. Her car was parked on the street. She walked around the side of the house, trying to look casual. Her mother appeared in the front window, saw her, waved. Sydney waved back, kept walking, got in her car, started the engine. Her mother came out onto the porch. "Sydney, sweetie, where are you going?" "Just remembered I have class," Sydney called back. "I'll text you later." She pulled away before her mother could respond. Drove straight to the police station. Asked for Detective Morrison. He was out. Expected back in an hour. Sydney sat in the parking lot, hands gripping the steering wheel. Her phone buzzed. Text from her mother. "When are you coming back? We need to talk about something important." Another text. "Trent and I have a surprise for you." Sydney's skin crawled. She didn't respond. Just sat there watching the station entrance. Finally, 40 minutes later, a silver sedan pulled in. A man in his 50s got out, wearing a badge on his belt. Sydney grabbed the evidence and approached him. "Detective Morrison?" He turned, looked at her with tired eyes. "Yes? My name is Sydney Walsh. My father was Bennett Walsh. He told me to bring this to you." Morrison's expression changed immediately. Recognition, then concern. "Sydney, your father and I were old friends. Come inside." They sat in an interrogation room. Sydney spread everything out on the table, the letter, the thumb drives, the copies of bank statements. Morrison read the letter twice, his jaw tightened. How long have you had this? He asked. I found it today, about 2 hours ago. I came straight here. He picked up one of the thumb drives. Your father called me 3 days before he died. Said he needed to talk to me about something important. We were supposed to meet for coffee that morning. He never showed up. Got the call about his death around noon. Sydney's chest tightened. He died that morning. I know. Morrison looked at the evidence. I had suspicions. The coroner ruled it a heart attack, but something felt off. Your father was healthy, took care of himself. Then suddenly he's dead and your mother is collecting life insurance money before the funeral is even over. What do we do? Sydney asked. Morrison stood up. First we preserve this evidence, then we watch these videos, and then we decide how to proceed. But Sydney, I need you to understand something. Your mother can't know you have this. Can't know you've talked to me. If your father was right about the threat to your life, we need to keep you safe. I already left. She saw me drive away. Where are you staying? With my boyfriend, Trent, but he's... Sydney stopped, realization hitting her. He's in on it. I can't go back there. Morrison nodded. Do you have somewhere else? Family? Friends? Sydney thought about it. Her roommate, Kelly. They'd been friends since freshman year. Kelly didn't know her mother well. Had never met Trent. I can stay with my roommate. Good. Don't tell your mother where you are. Don't answer her calls. I'll have an officer escort you to your boyfriend's place to get your things. You go in, grab what you need, and leave. Don't engage with him if he's there. Understood? Sydney nodded. She felt numb, like she was watching this happen to someone else. Morrison made some calls. 20 minutes later, she was following a patrol car to Trent's apartment. He wasn't home. She packed fast. Clothes, toiletries, laptop, important documents. Left her key on the counter. Wrote a note. We're done. Don't contact me. She crashed at Kelly's place that night. Told her she and Trent broke up. Didn't mention the rest. Kelly didn't push for details. Just made popcorn and put on a movie. Sydney couldn't focus. Her phone kept buzzing. Her mother calling. Texting. Where are you? Why aren't you answering? Trent said you left him. What's going on? We need to talk. It's important. Sydney turned off her phone. Lay awake in Kelly's spare bedroom until sunrise, wondering if her father had felt this same fear. If he'd known those last few days that he was out of time.